For most people, Detroit is a place you fly over, not to. A once great motor city now synonymous for danger, decay, and M&M. But give it 72 hours on the ground and a different Detroit emerges. Manhattan-level skyscrapers, historic boutique hotels, old theaters dripping with charm and history, and a food scene that punches way above its weight without the big city price tag. So in this episode, we're not chasing luxury and we're not here for urban exploration. We drove in, walked the streets, ate the donuts, ducked into those old hotels and theaters, talked to some of the friendliest people you'll meet in any American city, and dug into the history to answer one question. What is Detroit really like to visit right now?
All right, good morning. We are getting on the road to head up to Detroit for the Detroit Auto Show, the 2026 Detroit Auto Show. And we've got, a 800-mile trip ahead of us? Or is it 600
it's a lot.
miles?
It's a lot. It's so early, and it's such a beautiful day here. I almost don't want to leave. The sun is out. The neighborhood cats are around doing weird stuff. And is it your first time in Detroit, or have you been there before?
First time in Detroit, and I'm really excited for the pizza.
I'm a motorhead, and this is my first time in Motor City, so I'm excited to see the history, see the Art Deco, see all the things, and meet all the people. So we will see you guys on the other side, or we'll see you at the next Tesla Supercharger.
So we had a beautiful day to start our travels from Virginia to head all the way up to Detroit. It was a crystal clear sunny day. It was extremely cold and windy, but the nice thing about traveling through this area of the country was we didn't hit a whole lot of traffic. So that was actually really relaxing because we did not have full self-driving on. One of the greatest things about the electric vehicle that we were in, the Tesla Model Y, was that it had battery preconditioning. So this allowed the battery to warm up. So when we did get to one of those charging stops, it was as quick as it possibly could to fill up the tank from about 10% to about 80%, depending on where we were actually going. And we spent all of our time when we were at those charging stops, usually heading into the Walmart that was next door or heading around the corner to the Starbucks. So we were always able to kind of get a little bit of caffeine in the system and also stretch our legs a little bit. So it never seemed that exhausting. First charging stop in Lewisburg, West Virginia. We've got approximately 473 miles left to go on our road trip to Detroit. It is a sunny day here, but it is cold. So let me just flip around to see what we're working with here. Whew, 28 degrees. Let's get that in focus. I guess it's not gonna focus, but we are charging here. We've got a little bit longer to go. Looks like we've got 6 minutes until we are able to go to our next place in Ripley, West Virginia. However, that is going to leave us with 2% with this kind of cold weather. Probably would not chance that, so we will probably sit here and just bask in this glorious sunshine here as we're in the greenhouse effect. Now, I haven't spent much time in West Virginia, but every time I drive through that state, it makes me want to go back just because the mountains were so beautiful. And then as soon as you cross the river into Ohio, it instantly just became really flat from Ohio all the way up to Michigan. And so I definitely really appreciate the mountains, and I realize I'm more of a mountains person.
Okay, so if you haven't guessed right now, we are in Ohio. We are actually outside of Columbus in Worthington, Ohio. Next up is the Detroit Wayne Airport, where we are going to pick up Carson, who is flying in from Newark, New Jersey. We've got about 3 hours left on the road trip to make it up to the airport.
This was my first long road trip during the wintertime using my electric vehicle, and I was a little bit hesitant at first about the loss of range that people report, but I didn't experience any of that.
Where are we, Mike?
We are in Findlay, Ohio, and we are about 90 miles away from the Detroit airport, where we are going to pick up Carson.
It's been a pretty easy ride so far. The V4, I don't know if you can see the V4 stalls, and then the V3 cabinets over here made for quick charging. So this was a quick stop. It's a pretty nice area. You have a nice Marathon gas station and everything you need, and your Dairy Queen is there. So this was a nice stop with a beautiful Model Y Juniper in that silver color. So this was a quick stop for us because it was cold.
See ya in Michigan.
All right, we are here. We are waiting for Carson to get out of the terminal here at the Detroit airport. This airport's overwhelmingly large, but I would say it's pretty cool that they don't like hassle you to get out of here for parking for a couple seconds, like they do at Newark.
Yeah.
How's the drive been?
It's been long. We're definitely ready for the hotel.
You're definitely ready for your slice of Hunt Brothers pizza?
I'm ready to see Carson.
All right, let's see. He should be here any minute.
Let's see.
All the people, everybody but Carson.
All right, let's go get Carson. Ooh, forgot my phone.
Look who it is. Look what the cat dragged in.
Finally.
It's Carson!
Do you have anything to say for yourself?
Thank God I'm off that
How was the
plane.
flight?
Did you get free peanuts?
No, I got chips. Some chips.
Was there any exciting viral moments that we're gonna see on TikTok a week from now about people fighting?
No, but the woman in front of me kept her reading light on the whole entire flight.
All right, let me get a picture of you guys. 3, 2, 1. Sweet.
After we picked up Carson, we finally made our way into Detroit, where we passed a really cool casino called Motor City, and we got to the hotel, which was the Cambria Hotel in downtown Detroit. And this hotel was pretty awesome because it was a historic landmark with deep ties to the birth of the modern media. And this was an Art Deco building that was designed by the famous architect of Detroit, Albert Kahn. One thing to note about this particular hotel was that the lobby for the hotel was actually 3 floors up from the base of the building, and that was because the hotel itself is actually a new modern structure in the back of the building, while the Art Deco, the original Art Deco building, was actually where you first come in. And so that was just something to note, that you will have to take that elevator up and down, and it takes a couple extra minutes when you're trying to leave. But the people that we met in the lobby, every time we had to stand near those elevators, were just very friendly. And generally, we also got to learn a little bit more about the people of Detroit. And so the lobby itself was very modern, very clean. We saw lots of people from the Detroit Auto Show that were just posted up in the lobby, hanging out there, putting their camera gear together. So we actually felt very much at home seeing all the industry and media folks that were there. And then once you went through the rest of the lobby, you really got a feel, again, for how they tried to make this hotel feel like an Art Deco hotel, the original building that it was actually in. And so you'll see we were pretty tired by this point of the trip. It was a long day of travel. And then also one of the neat things about this was just looking at all of the history, because this hotel actually had a 340-seat broadcasting auditorium where live audiences would watch radio shows, which I actually never really thought about, that people would actually come in to see a radio show, but that was the case. And so you would actually see that the mezzanine had been covered up for many years and was later rediscovered and restored when the hotel actually opened up. And it was really neat just to see the history, and they also had some really neat artifacts and old Zenith recording machines in the lobby, and so that was really nice. The staff was a 10 out of 10 at this hotel. To the left past the reception was a really cool lobby bar called Bev, and the cool thing about this bar was the name and the design were direct tributes to the building's legacy as the birthplace of commercial radio broadcasting. And so one of the neat things is that this very much felt like an Art Deco era type of bar, almost like a speakeasy. They had the cocktail menu that leans very heavily into the Prohibition era classics, and it was just a beautiful space that looked like it would be great to wind down after a long wintry day in Detroit.
2 shots of vodka.
Even though we didn't actually get a chance to do that, we would definitely do it again if we were going back and staying for a longer period of time. One of the aspects that we all appreciated was just how they really kept the new modern part of the building very much looking like the Art Deco part, the original part. And that was just really impressive to me how the designers had done that. The lighting inside the room was really cool. They had lights on top of the bed. They had lights on the floor. They had lights in the cabinet. There were all these really pretty high-end dimmers and such. So that was a delighter. I didn't expect that. And it was kind of nice being able to also look across the street and actually see our car where we actually were charging it on the floor of the Albert Kahn parking garage. And it was kind of nice to be able just to look over and actually see that the car was there. It was also nice that the floors were wooden here, so there was no creepy carpet. And as I mentioned, we got in pretty late, so there was not a whole lot of food open in downtown Detroit. But right across the street, there was the Fort Street Presbyterian Church. And then right next to that was actually this really awesome dive bar called Tommy's Detroit Bar and Grill. And that's where we all went in and got some fried food at the end of the day. And highly recommend it. Great place to watch any Detroit sports games. We got a chance to watch the Detroit Red Wings win their hockey game. And so that was really fun just to get a flavor for what the people were like. And the service there was outstanding. I would highly recommend it for a quick bite, or if you just want to go in and check out the Detroit sports scene. The next morning, we made our way across the street to the parking garage where we had plugged in and charged overnight. Now, the charging there was a charge point charger. It was not free, but it was pretty reasonably priced at under 20 cents per kilowatt hour. And it was kind of cool just seeing all of the American EVs. I've never seen so many American EVs in my life in Detroit. I guess that's not really surprising because it is Detroit, the home of the big three. Our first stop was Michigan Central Station, which was once the tallest rail station in the world, and it opened in 1913 as Detroit's Grand Gateway. But as the city declined, the station was shuttered in 1988, and it sat abandoned for decades as a symbol of Detroit's urban decay. And today, Ford has breathed new life into the ruin, transforming it into a massive 30-acre innovation hub for the future of mobility.
Cool. So, Mike, where are we?
We are
Where are we
here
starting?
in Corktown, which is Detroit's oldest neighborhood, founded in 1834 by Irish immigrants who came here from County Cork, Ireland.
Why I want to show people why we're here. I love abandoned buildings. I love things that have been forgotten by time. I also love historical things. And what's really neat is this neighborhood holds really a convergence of Detroit's history, from the automotive world, the train world. And so behind us, I don't know if people can see, if you can move the camera so people can see the building behind us in the background, but the
Michigan Central.
So Michigan Central is really neat because it was abandoned. When was the last train? 1988?
The last train was 1988.
And when it was built, it was the tallest train station in the world?
Correct,
How many feet?
1913.
300, a couple hundred feet
I don't know
tall?
how many feet, but it was
It's
the tallest.
huge. But anyway, at this point in time, it houses Ford's technology, like really a heavy technology. I know their EV center was in there at one point, a lot of the software teams. And so there's about 1,000 people sitting in there now. And it's really neat because the building, I used to watch videos of this building when it was abandoned, people going through it. And so it's cool to be here in person, and it'll be cool to take a look at it. We are going to check out a very special food place inside, and so we will keep you guys posted.
Once we got into the station, we realized that we were actually blocked because the Detroit Auto Show had a special event that was going on, so we couldn't make our way into the main historic hall. But if I was to come back, I would definitely see that because it looked really beautiful, even though it was covered in all these lights and there was loud music playing. And of course, no trip is complete without a stop to the hometown donut shop, which in this case for Detroit, the best of the best is Yellow Light.
So Perry, what do we have here? You on the mic?
Mike, I don't have my, do I have my mic on?
Yeah.
I do have my mic on. Mike, go towards the light, but the yellow light.
What do we got there? What flavors of donuts?
No idea.
Man, I am so grateful I don't work in this building because I would probably be at this donut shop every single day.
All right, so we are about to dive into some Yellow Light. Carson's going for the
Raspberry
Let's
with,
see your bites.
raspberry
I'm going
with
for-
lavender sprinkles.
Raspberry, lavender sprinkle, and then
and this is blueberry.
This is so odd with the Jurassic Park sounds outside.
Really good cake donut.
Okay, score. Out of 10.
What's 10? What's 1?
If Donut Plant in New York was a 10, I would give this one an 8.
Okay, if Donut Plant was a 10, I think I would also give it an 8. It's pretty good.
So go towards the light.
Yeah, you can taste the raspberry. You can really taste the raspberry, but not so much the lavender.
That's always lavender.
All right, Carson, so now that we've demolished half of this box of donuts and we've tried all of the flavors from Yellow Light, what is your favorite?
In order, raspberry takes the cake.
No pun intended.
Yeah, no pun intended. Raspberry, blueberry, chocolate, lemon, cherry, vanilla.
I like the blueberry.
I would agree. I would say that raspberry is definitely my favorite. I think it had the best real fruit flavor, and then followed by the lemon poppy. Chocolate was also really good.
And once you're done with donuts, you can pop into the history of the building, where you can really see that this is not just a corporate office, but it's a high-tech ecosystem that Ford has built for the future of mobility. And by restoring rather than replacing this landmark, Ford turned Detroit's most famous symbol of abandonment into the ultimate proof of its comeback.
One of the things I noticed when I first approached the station was there was a sign outside that said, "Left lanes are electrified," and I was really curious of what that actually was. And then when we drove on the road, we saw that it said EV charging left lane. And so now that I'm in the Michigan Central Station, I can see what's named America's first electrified road. So I am now going to get a chance, and excuse those Jurassic Park sounds in the background. I think they're doing a photo shoot here for the show. But this is America's first electrified road. This was the nation's first public road that can charge electric vehicles while they drive using wireless technology built into the pavement.
And while I was getting an eye full of history for Detroit, my team was back in the donut shop getting a mouthful of donuts. They just couldn't get enough of them.
So we tried to go into the main hall of the train station here, but you can see behind me, there is a private event that is being set up for the Detroit Auto Show. So we didn't get a chance to go inside there, but it looked beautiful from the spot that we did go in to get those Yellow Light donuts. And hopefully we'll get a chance to at some point come back and actually see the main part of the station here. But right behind me here is Ford's main innovation hub that they purchased in 2018 for $90 million. The company put $950 million into renovating it, and now there's over 1,000 Ford employees here working on the latest and greatest for their company's technology.
Growing up, Michigan Central Station was the one building you couldn't ignore, but for all the wrong reasons. I remember seeing this building as a kid, a hunking, hollowed-out shell that felt more like a tomb than a landmark. Back then, it was defined by shattered glass, jagged graffiti, and a sense of kind of what used to be. It was definitely the national poster child for urban decay. But standing here right now, it honestly is hard to believe that it's the same place. Ford didn't just fix it, they totally resurrected it, and they tracked down the original Indiana quarry just to match the same limestone and 3D printed historic details that had been lost for decades. To see this building transformed from a ruin into this gleaming crown jewel is just incredible, because it's no longer a symbol of what Detroit lost. It's a symbol and a living testament to what we can actually build. Seeing this level of investment coming from a homegrown industry like Ford really feels like the ultimate full circle moment that Detroit isn't just coming back, it's actually leading again.
All right, so I'm down here at Detroit's riverfront.
Yeah, the Detroit Riverwalk was definitely a bit of a frozen tundra when I was there. All the boats were shrink wrapped for the season, and it was definitely just freezing cold battling that wind chill. And I could definitely tell, though, that this was going to be a place to come back to in July.
All right, so we are approaching this cool lighthouse at the Detroit Waterfront Riverwalk. And you can see we got GM's headquarters in the background there. And let's go and see. It looks like Perry is taking refuge inside of the lighthouse doorway because it is pretty cold here. You can see we've got the river over there, or the lake, just ripping and roaring. All right, Perry, what do we have here? We've got, let's see. Oh, this is a new lighthouse. What's the history? All right, well, it is really cold, and you can see one thing that's really surprising about Detroit, I didn't realize, is how many casinos there are. You look around the city, you see MGM, you see Caesars, and also Hollywood Casino. I didn't know that there were so many casinos here, because I think of
automobiles when I think of Detroit, and also pizza. I don't necessarily think of casinos, so that was something that I learned. And Carson is the smart man. He is inside the warm Tesla getting ready with the camera gear, and so we are going back to go see him for our next stop.
No trip to Detroit is complete without seeing the bones of the industry that built this city. We drove from the Riverwalk straight to the legendary Packard plant, and the transition was jarring. You go from a polished waterfront to a sprawling 80-acre concrete ghost city. It's easily one of the most tired images of Detroit's decline, but long before it was a ruin, it was a global trailblazer. When Albert Kahn designed this factory in 1903, he changed the world forever. For his 10th building in the complex, he used reinforced concrete, a game-changing first that made him into the auto industry's go-to architect. At its peak, this place was a city within a city, producing over 1.6 million luxury cars and the engines that powered World War II. But the glory didn't last, and following a failed merger with Studebaker, the last true Packard rolled off the line in 1956, and the plant began a slow, painful descent into a 3.5 million square foot wasteland of rubble and steel. I've seen the photos of this place looking like a total ruin for many years, but being here now, you can tell that era is over. Most of it's been cleared out to make room for a new project called Packard Park, and they're actually keeping the main historic buildings, but they're adding a massive manufacturing hub and a few hundred jobs. And the coolest part, they're putting in a skate park and a museum for techno music right in the middle of it, which is such a bold way to handle the history. After leaving Packard, we headed across town to the Russell Industrial Center, which was another massive Albert Kahn site, but unlike Packard, this one was actually alive, packed with artist studios and local shops.
So, Mike, you're gonna tell them where we are?
All right, so we are at the Russell Industrial Exhibition Center. Now, Perry, tell us what some of the history of this location was in Detroit. What was made here?
This area now has a lot of different things going on. There's like some art stuff. There's like a bunch of interesting tenants that are here. We're gonna tell you the story at the corner where the history actually happened, where it's more relevant. We'll tell you a cool story about this building and about the history of this property and the history of Detroit. So the building you see behind me is, today we call it the Russell Industrial Center. But years ago, this building, I believe, was built by the famous architect Albert Kahn, which is actually the parking garage that we parked in today on our way here. It started construction, it looks like it started construction in 1915 for John William Murray. And in this building originally was the Murray Body Shop. I'll wait till this massive truck passes me. So the Murray Body Shop Corporation, they made bodies for models like Ford. I guess they were a coach builder is what I would refer to that as today. But one of the cool things I wanted to tell you guys about in this building, one of the tenants, I guess after the body shop, or maybe the body shop wasn't using the whole structure, you can see it's huge, it's massive. And this has we parked in a courtyard area that was in this complex, so that was kind of cool. I don't know all of the history to a T, but on our other channel, the non-travel channel, the EV focus channel, we talk about electric vehicles. A lot of people think that electric vehicle technology is new, but it's really not all that new. And while the Anderson Electric Car Company, or the Anderson Electric Car, they weren't the first manufacturer of electric vehicles in the United States or in Detroit, they did start around the 1800s, and there were electric vehicles as early, I believe, as 1850, 1830, 1890, all over the United States they were making them. But for this video, we're here talking about Detroit, right? So the Anderson Electric Company, they made a vehicle called, I think, let me look at my notes here, the Detroit Electric, I believe was the name. Yep. Where is it? So the building was Albert Kahn, blah, 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 blah. Detroit Electric was the name of the vehicle. It was marketed towards women, I believe. It had a range of 70 miles. It could go 25 miles per hour. And I believe this is the intersection when I looked up the address. So behind me, you can see across that street over there is Clay Street behind me. And then this is Clay and Riopel. So that's where these cars were manufactured. And so I wanted to take you guys here to show you the site of where one of the first electric vehicles in Detroit, probably the most successful. So they're the ones that come up. There were other electric vehicles being manufactured in Detroit. However, these sold around 13,000 or so. So they were pretty successful in moving units. They were, from what I could find, it looked like these were more of a luxury thing. They were more of a clean thing. And Henry Ford was also experimenting with electric vehicles from what I saw in my research, and there were other companies, but this was the most successful, was the Anderson Electric Company with the Detroit electric vehicle. And it was made right here in Detroit. So it's a pretty cool piece of history. And it's pretty cool that it was made right on this site. Really, really incredible piece of history. And electric vehicles, they're not that old. Obviously, they weren't supercharging, they weren't doing full self-driving, but it's pretty cool nonetheless that they were still being made all those years ago in a spot like this in Detroit. Another crazy fun little fact is, I don't know how true this is, but I saw in my research of looking up the Anderson Electric Company and the Detroit Electric, that Clara Ford, Henry Ford's wife, supposedly owned one. So, I mean, it must have been a pretty good car, or a pretty enjoyable car for her to own one. Also, Thomas Edison was supposedly, he owned one as well, or drove one as well. That makes a little bit more sense, but I thought I would share that as well.
And while we were freezing our butts outside, Carson was staying warm in the Tesla. But driving through this part of Detroit, you could just feel the life of what used to be here, with all of the activity and just the hundreds of thousands of jobs that were attributed to this industrial powerhouse that once was. But seeing the signs of life and those new companies coming in gives me a lot of hope that Detroit's going to look very different in 10 years. Leaving the industrial vibe behind, we headed over to the Fisher Building, which was another Albert Kahn masterpiece, but the contrast was wild. While places like Packard and the Russell are still being resurrected, the Fisher felt like it was already back in its prime. This perfectly restored Art Deco cathedral that showed what Detroit looked like at the top of its game.
So I just got into the Fisher Building, and wow, this is way more impressive than I was expecting. It's a lot larger inside, and the public has access to the entire lobby, which is really, just turn the camera around, which is a ton of different shops and restaurants. And I mean, it's just stunning up here. I don't think this is gonna do it justice, but these vaulted ceilings that have these custom Art Deco chandeliers, and then you've got just all of the detail here that's going on is really neat. And you've got all these kind of fun eateries back in here. Just pan this down. And so it looks like you've got bakeries and coffee shops. But yeah, I mean, it's just, the level of detail here is incredible. From all of these, all the lights that are up here to just the marble. I mean, it's just really, really impressive. And so just look at the detail on these elevators. It is. Can you imagine going to work in a building like this every single day? Wow. Looks like they really kept a lot of the original architecture that's here. And I can see the rest of my crew is over here. And it's like there's Carson and Perry. But yeah, I mean, it just keeps going.
When you step inside the Fisher Building for the first time, you understand why people call this Detroit's largest art piece. We're talking about a 1928 masterpiece that cost $3 million to build, which in today's money is nearly $54 million. And Brandon, the operations manager here, kindly showed us why every single penny was worth it. So the Fisher Building was designed by Albert Kahn, the same architect who basically built industrial Detroit. But here's what's wild. While he was designing efficient factories for the auto industry, he created this, a 30-story cathedral to craftsmanship. The Fisher brothers, who made their fortune building car bodies for Cadillac and GM, wanted to prove that Detroit wasn't just about assembly lines. They wanted to build the world's most beautiful commercial building. And they definitely succeeded. I mean, just look at this lobby. It's 3 stories of pure artistry. The walls are covered in 40 different types of marble, sourced from all over the world, Italy, Belgium, Africa. And here's the kicker. They use so much rare Hungarian marble that apparently they literally depleted that entire quarry. And you can't build another Fisher Building even if you wanted to, because some of those materials simply don't exist anymore. Even all of the elevator doors were so unique. I mean, this is the kind of detail that just doesn't exist in modern buildings today. Each elevator had custom bronze metalwork with different geometric Art Deco designs. And get this, when the building opened, it actually had the fastest elevators in the entire world. People would come here just to ride them. It was like a 1920s version of going to an amusement park. These elevators were a tourist attraction in and of themselves. Even the ceiling murals were special, and Brandon showed us why they are so fascinating because they weren't just painted, they were actually handcrafted artwork depicting different cultures and civilizations throughout history. You've got Native American imagery, African motifs, Asian influences, European themes, all celebrating human achievement. And the Fisher brothers, they wanted this building to represent the entire world coming together, which was a pretty incredible vision for 1920s Detroit. Each one of the building's archways tells a different story. And see these details? I mean, every single one is unique. And the artists reportedly spent months on each section. And if you look really closely, and I mean really, really closely, you can see the individual brushstrokes and incredible depth of color. This is all original, by the way. That $70 million restoration in the 1980s and early 2000s brought it all back to exactly how it looked on opening day in 1928. And here's something that most people don't know. The Fisher Building was supposed to have a twin tower right next to it, connected by a massive bridge. Of course, the Great Depression killed those plans, but imagine if they had finished it. It would have been even more spectacular than what we're seeing now. And this was meant to be just half of that vision, and it's already one of the most stunning buildings in America. One of my favorite parts of the tour that Brandon gave us was just to show us how this building has evolved. It's not a museum, it's alive, and they host weddings, corporate events, concerts, art exhibitions. You can literally get married under these incredible archways with these historic murals as your backdrop. And one of the coolest parts was down in the lobby where you've got this amazing collection of local vendors and businesses and entrepreneurs that represent Detroit.
So my name is Serena Horton. The name of my business is Bejeweled Jewelry and Accessories, and we are located in the historic Detroit Fisher Building in Suite 125.
The one thing I really wanted to ask you, you can't tell, you've made this space so beautiful, so modern, and that is such a contrast to what's outside this old historic building. What's it like being in this time capsule relic, and then you have this amazing space? Like, what's it like being in such a beautiful old space? Is there any inconveniences, or like, I know Brandon's not here, so you can say whatever you want to say now.
No, actually, I love the Fisher Building. Okay, so the Fisher Building has been a huge asset in my life.
In your life?
In my
not
life.
Not just this business.
Or in my business, but I'm gonna say my life because my goal is to be a successful business person, right? And so the support from the area businesses, everything from the State Building, the Cadillac Building, New Center One, during the shows, I get people who come in, just like yourself, who didn't know this space existed, or at one point it existed as something else.
I love seeing Detroit entrepreneurs, artists, small business owners, all thriving in this historic space. There's just something really special about seeing a 95-year-old building supporting the next generation of Detroit's economy. It's just a perfect blend of honoring the past while building the future. You know what Brandon told us that really stuck with me? He said the Fisher brothers wanted to create something that would make Detroiters proud. Not just a functional office building, but a statement that said, this is who we are, this is what we are capable of. And almost a century later, walking through these halls, you can still feel that pride in every detail.
My name is Nicole Grant. I am the owner of MG Studio Salon, located inside the historic building of the Fisher Building. We have over 20 different hair care products that I actually manufacture and make myself. I formulate all of them, and they are all naturally made. So there's no silicones, there's no copolymers, there's no
parabens.
None of that is in there.
Any tips for someone that might be graying? Not me, I'm speaking for a friend, that could maybe stop that hair from graying?
That stops it. So actually, we just found out that with our scalp therapy, it has rosemary in it, and it actually, prolong the graying of it.
I'm gonna switch it up just real quick.
Okay.
And I want to interview you. I am so sorry that we are taking up your appointment here. Who are you and what's going on? What are we getting done today?
My name is Beverly Triplet, and we're getting some V-Light extensions.
I have no idea what that means, but she looks beautiful, so we know it's working. And I think that's it.
My favorite store in the Fisher Building was Pure Detroit. This had everything that you could imagine, from Detroit Monopoly to Lions board games, and you even had all of these really cool Detroit pizza shirts. I wish I would have spent a little bit more money here and actually picked up some really cool swag from the trip. But again, you just had these like really cool Art Deco postcards. You even had seatbelt handbags. I've never seen seatbelt handbags. I mean, I don't buy handbags, but I've never seen anything like that anywhere else. Very specific to Detroit. I would totally recommend coming back here if you want a unique gift. Right next door to the Fisher Building lobby, we stepped into the Fisher Theater with Christopher Nunez, the Deputy General Manager of Broadway in Detroit. And here's what most people don't realize. This isn't the original 1928 theater. What we're actually standing in was a 1961 time capsule, and the story of how we got here is absolutely fascinating. The original Fisher Theater had over 3,400 seats. It was absolutely massive, designed for vaudeville and the big stage shows of the 1920s. But by the late 1950s, those giant movie palaces were dying as television was taking over, and Detroit had to make a choice: let this historic theater crumble or completely reimagine it. So in 1961, they gutted the entire space and rebuilt it as a legitimate Broadway house with just under 2,200 seats. And what they created is pure 1960s sophistication. I mean, just look at this lobby. This was mid-century modern design at its finest. Those mustard yellow velvet chairs, original. These dark wood panels, all original. And those geometric light fixtures, they're still there from opening night. And while the main Fisher Building is all about 1920s opulence, this theater was a masterclass in 1960s restraint and elegance. It was moody, intimate, sophisticated. It kind of had that Mad Men meets Broadway vibe. And Christopher showed us multiple lobby levels, which was really revolutionary theater design for its time. Instead of just one big crowded lobby, they created these flowing spaces where audiences could move throughout the different levels. And once we got inside the actual theater itself, we got a chance to sit in those original 1961 seats. And I have to tell you, I was not expecting this, but those mustard yellow velvet seats that were over 60 years old, they were actually pretty comfortable. Like, you'd think that after 6 decades they'd be worn out or replaced, but the Fisher Theater has kept them maintained and kept them authentic. And there was something really cool about knowing that thousands of people have sat in these exact seats watching Broadway shows for generation. And that color, that deep mustard yellow, it was so perfectly 1960s. It would have been trendy back then, and now it's this incredible vintage touch that you just can't replicate. And they don't make theater seats like this anymore. The craftsmanship, materials, even the way that they're installed, it was this old school quality that you could just tell was built to last, and clearly it has. And Christopher showed us something that most audiences never get to see, and honestly, most actors never see either. Behind the main stage curtain, there's this massive fireproof cover, and it's a safety requirement that dates back over a century. In the early days of theater, stage fires were a real danger with all the lighting and electrical work, so they built in these fire-resistant barriers that could drop down and seal off the stage from the audience in case of emergency. It's still there, still functional, quietly protecting everyone who walks into this building. And here's where the 1961 redesign got really clever. Christopher explained that they built a false ceiling in here, and what that means is there's actually a huge amount of hidden space above what we were looking at. But even more interesting, they designed dividing walls that could come down inside the theater to make the space smaller or larger depending on the show that was playing. Just think about that. They could literally reconfigure the theater based on what was playing. A smaller, intimate production could feel cozy and close, while a big Broadway spectacle could use that full space. And that was pretty innovative in the 1960s from an engineering meets practical theater design. And they wanted this place to be flexible so that they could adapt and serve different types of performances. And that forward-thinking approach is part of why this theater has been successful for over 6 decades. Then Chris gave us this exclusive look up in the balcony at the original plaster walls, and we could still see smoke stains on them from back when smoking was allowed in theaters. We're talking decades of cigarette and cigar smoke that left its mark on these walls. It was the raw, unrestored pizza history that most people will never see, a reminder of how different the theater-going experience used to be. And those original 1960s crystal chandeliers, they were absolutely stunning. The way they caught the light, the mid-century modern design, the elegance, they set the whole mood of the space before the show had even started. Sitting in that 1960s theater, it hit me. This isn't just a recreation of the past, it's the original history, still living and doing exactly what it was designed to do. All that time walking through the Fisher Building and the theater, we really had built up an appetite, so Brandon recommended that we cross over the bridge into the new Center 1 building, where we found a classic Detroit Coney Island style spot called the Coney Man.
All right, so this business back here, Coney Man, which we just got to see the current owner, Mike, who is the son of the original owner. They have been here since 1993 in different areas of the complex. They were in a kiosk downstairs, and now they have this spot right across the bridge that connects these two buildings. And man, this hot dogs are really good. I can see why so many locals, including Brandon, who is one of the real estate managers for the Fisher Building, recommended us to be here.
Operations manager.
Sorry, Brandon is the operations manager. So we are here at Coney Man, which is in New Center Place, right next to the Fisher Building. And Mike has whipped us up the original Detroit Coney, which is the hot dog that has the snap. So I'm excited to try this out. And I really hope there's lots of napkins in here because this looks like it's gonna be fun to eat. So let's go in and try this. All right, let me actually pick it up from this side. Oh, nice and hot. All right. Delicious. You got that snap.
Do you want to tell us about the father-son thing? Do you like how they put this right next to the hot dog place?
Okay, so we were heading over to Cadillac Place. Cadillac Place was the original General Motors headquarters, and the bridge that we are crossing over the street right now actually had a connection underground that I got a clip of when we went downstairs in the basement of the Fisher Building to go to the bathroom. You saw it boarded up. It was all boarded up, but you did see the sign for Cadillac Place. So we are walking over the replacement bridge right now, and I'm very grateful that we are, because it is pouring rain outside and it's about 35 degrees. So this is definitely the way to go.
And the inside of the Cadillac Place building was interesting. I'm pretty sure that Albert Kahn, the architect, would be rolling over in his grave if he saw what they had done with the inside of that lobby. The Detroit hot dog was a good pregame for Detroit pizza.
All right, we are here in front of Buddy's Pizza. Buddy's, this is the original Buddy's location. Buddy's opened up in 1946, and it is the home of the Detroit style pizza. I've never had real Detroit style pizza. I've only had the stuff from Costco in the freezer. So I'm really excited to actually try it. This is the original location, and Detroit style pizza, Carson, have you ever had it?
Nope.
So what makes it really special, from what I heard, is that it's square pizza, almost like a grandma slice, with crispy corners and the caramelization that goes to the pan. How excited are you to try it?
Out of 10, probably an 8 because I'm super hungry. And Mike, you had a little cheat sheet for when they opened over there.
Yes. I cheated.
Okay, go. You know the creek is gonna be like that crunch.
Well, thank you.
What do we have here? We have
Carson's Corner. Carson's Corner comes with a Detroit style pizza.
and we have a Carson.
Uh-huh.
Nobody puts Carson in the.
You want me to hold it?
Oh, yeah, that's perfect. Let me make sure I get you in the frame now.
Thank you.
Legendary Janice. All right. What do we got here?
Thank you so much.
Okay, so Detroit style, the pepperoni is under the cheese.
Oh,
Okay.
Okay?
weird.
In case you're wondering where
Different.
the pepperoni's at. So this is the cheese and
Okay.
pepperoni.
Okay.
Okay? This one here is the extra cheese. And this one here is the margarita. Small.
Okay.
We are here at Buddy's Pizza. We're about to head out, and we're with Janice. She was our server. I think Janice has worked here for a couple months.
36 years. Couple months feels like, yeah.
I'm sure Janice has seen some things. We entered as strangers. I think we'll leave as friends.
We'll leave as buddies.
That's how apropos. I was going to ask you, what's the one thing, if you wanted people to know about Detroit, that people watching, maybe they haven't been here, maybe they haven't experienced it, not just Buddy's, but the city in general. What's one thing you would want them to know?
What I want them to know is the comeback of Detroit from 25 years ago. Downtown has come back like you wouldn't believe. Downtown has come back like you wouldn't believe. Detroit is expanding, it's evading, it's evaluating. It's amazing from what it used to be to what it is now. Us people here, we are very friendly. I know you guys can see that, how welcoming we are in this city. And that's what I want you to know, is that we're up and coming, we're coming back. Man, wait a minute, we're back. You just got to come and see us.
Yeah.
And of course, you got to try the good Detroit style pizza on Buddy's at 6 Mile.
Who's behind us, too? You mentioned someone was behind us here.
Okay,
We
so-
cannot forget her.
Right, so these here are the ladies that started the kitchen.
Okay.
Okay, this here is Conchetta, and she invented our very own salad dressing, which you guys had and you loved it.
Yes.
These ladies here did the pizzas. Okay, they made the pizzas. This here was the wait staff, which I call them the Aquanet ladies. If you could get in there and show them hairdos and how much hairspray it took, look at them beautiful ladies. Detroit is also known for sports. You hear about us Lions. We didn't do too well this year, but we're happy with ourselves because we've come back. And also the Wings and the Pistons. You know, like I said, Detroit is happening, guys. All of our stadiums are downtown. It's wonderful down there.
Janice was super nice. It was cool hearing her stories. The pizza was good. Bless you.
Thank you.
The salad was really good. The vinaigrette was good. I was expecting it to be more vinegary, but I don't like vinegar, so that was fine.
Let's get down to the pizza rating.
Yeah, overall pizza. I want to hear what Mike has to say.
I would give the pizza an 8 out of 10. I thought it was really good. I do have a cold, so I probably would weight my score a little bit lower.
It's funny, I was going to say the same thing. I would also give an 8 out of 10. So a lot of 8 out of 10s so far this trip, but I think if you guys go, definitely get the pepperoni. That one was really good. And Perry, you like the margarita, so you guys could try that.
How does it compare to New York style pizza?
I don't think you can compare it, just because it's totally different. Like, you have round pizza versus square, deep dish versus thin.
I agree. I'd like to fold my pizza, so I'm more of a fan of that style than a pan style pizza.
I really like the crunchy crust, though. I'm a fan for crunchy crust. So I don't like doughy pizza, so the crust was really good.
After Buddy's, we headed back towards downtown to the historic Michigan building.
So unless you guys are Top Gear fans, you're probably not gonna know what I'm talking about. But I want to show you the building that's behind me. It's a pretty neat spot, and you can see. I don't know what you can see in there. but this has now been turned into a parking garage. And the cool thing about this spot is in one of the Grand Tour episodes, so similar to Top Gear, right? You have Jeremy Clarkson, Richard Hammond, James May. Those guys in here, show you a better picture now. In here, they do a segment in Detroit where they visit it's an old theater that got turned into a parking garage in the 70s. And they basically do a burnout test in here to see which vehicle is the loudest between Camaro and a couple other things. And it's a really cool segment. They see which one basically makes the most noise. I always wanted to see this. I thought it was so cool that it was a parking garage and a movie theater. I'll try to see if I can find a clip from that segment. And you guys tell me what you think.
Any minute now, paramedic will be cutting his trousers off.
You should have taken them off before he got in.
Joe, I don't know why he wears trousers. In 3, 2...
The other really cool thing about this theater turned parking garage, in addition to the fact that it was on the Grand Tour episode, it's actually the first location, I believe, where Henry Ford started production.
Downtown Detroit felt surprisingly alive. Very much this modern city with tons of cranes and new buildings going up everywhere. It just had a really good life that I didn't expect from seeing all those photos for many years of all the abandoned buildings. The downtown area specifically is definitely the center of Detroit's comeback. And one of the spots that most embodies this comeback is the historic Fox Theater.
All right, so right behind me is the historic Fox Theater in Detroit, and this theater is really special because it was about to be demolished in 1987, but fortunately, the founder of Little Caesars Pizza, I'm not a huge fan of Little Caesars Pizza, but I am a huge fan of this gentleman named Mike Ilitch, the founder, purchased the building in 1987, hours before it was about to be demolished, and then spent an additional $50 million renovating it from every single angle and every single detail to restore it to its former glory. Now it's a 5,000 seat entertainment venue inside. It used to be the largest movie palace in the United States, and I've heard it has been restored to all of its original details.
One of the cool facts I learned about this building is that during World War II, it actually stayed open 24 hours a day so that defense plant workers in Detroit working on late shifts would have a place to go for entertainment. All right, so by the end of our 72-hour trip to Detroit, we had a chance to sit down and give an overall score of our experience here. We would recommend you come to Detroit for an entire week just because there's so many places to see. We didn't even get a chance to see things like the Motown Museum, the Detroit Museum of Art. And again, if you come back in the summertime, you're just going to have so many more parks like Belle Isle to check out. So let's start with the safety score. I would rate it a 7 out of 10. I felt very safe downtown, but once you went outside the downtown area, you felt a little bit unsafe, like you were on your own. The architecture, I would give a 9 out of 10, just because the Art Deco buildings here were out of this world incredible. The people were a 10 out of 10. Everybody from the server at Buddy's Pizza to the gentleman who took us around the Fisher building, they were just so proud of their city and they were so kind. Like, Michigan kindness is really a thing. From a first impression standpoint, I would give Detroit a 7 out of 10. In terms of it being cared for, that score would be a 5 out of 10, largely due to the potholes and just the conditions of some of the sidewalks that made it hard to walk around in. From a parks perspective, I would rate it a 6 out of 10 because some of the parks like Belle Isle, you actually had to get a recreation passport to drive over there. We would have checked it out if it was free, so I'm going to dock it a couple points there. The food was an 8 out of 10. The walkability was a 7 out of 10, largely due to the fact that outside of downtown, There wasn't many areas to actually walk around in. You really needed a car to get to some of those distance areas across the city. A culture would be a 9 out of 10. You had the theaters, you had the Broadway in Detroit, just a really important arts presence that's here. And I think people have the money to support the arts because the cost of living here is relatively low. Access and parking would be an 8 out of 10. There were lots of parking garages downtown, although those were paid garages. And that brings us to an overall score of 76 out of 100 for Detroit. So would we go back? Absolutely. But I would want to come back next time in the summer when I could really enjoy that waterfront on being on the Detroit River, going to see Belle Isle. And so definitely excited to come back when the weather is a little bit better. But drop us a line below. What are your thoughts of Detroit? Have you had a chance to experience the comeback firsthand? Thank you for watching, and until next time, God bless.